Vedas. And so the Vedas are known as the oldest books of wisdom in the world. They're the source texts of Sanatana Dharma practiced by Hindus all over the world. And although the Vedas are revered, they're no longer studied or properly understood by most of the followers of Sanatana Dharma. Instead, the conventional viewpoint of the recent past projects the Vedas as texts that are useful only for karmas, actions, and rituals, and therefore generally devoid of any wisdom. And we know that's far from the truth. So in this webinar, Dr. Ramakrishna Narayana Swamiji will discuss both the action and the wisdom aspects of the Vedas. So we're going to get into how the Vedas want to aid all people to achieve success in their lives by raising consciousness. And our special guest today is Dr. Ramakrishna Narayana Swami. And maybe I can just hand it off to him to get us started. I know you've been studying the Vedas for, I think, decades, if I'm not mistaken, and you do your own course, like you've been teaching on your own as a private citizen. And I think you've been doing that for years as well, out of your own home, online, through COVID. And so we are glad to have you join us at Hindu University of America and bring your expertise and wisdom and knowledge of the Vedas to our supporters. We got a couple more people joining us. Panchabji from Veda Temple from Redmond, Washington. Great. And Rakeshji, yes, I will add you to the WhatsApp group. There you go. Perfect. Dr. Narayana Swamiji, let me hand it off to you to get us started on understanding the Vedas.
Okay, let me try to share the point. Okay, are we all set?
Yeah, we can see if you want to go to full screen mode.
No, this is...
So in the bottom part of the screen, where it has that, just scroll down a little right there. Yeah. To the right, yeah, that one. Perfect. Okay. Ready.
Ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hello to all of you. Welcome to this webinar, Understanding the Vedas, highlighting the spirituality and wisdom in the Vedas. I'll have put together a small topical outline. First 2 slides, texts and definitions, and the current understanding of Vedas and limitations in that understanding. Then essay, Sri Aurobindo. I use the short notation for Sri Aurobindo, the great yogin, even though he is known for his integrated yoga and the great contributions to yoga, he has done significant contributions to Vedas also by coming out with these spiritual and psychological meanings. And the next 3 topics, the Purusha, Tadegam, or Ekam Sat, Devas, Dasyus, those are all terms appearing in the Vedas. I will explain them. Then all these 3 may be new to most of you. What is in the Vedas, as I said, as Angurji said in the introduction, most of us revere the Veda, know about the Veda, but no proper formal education. So many do not know the contents, and most of them study the Vedanta. There are teachers to teach, and there are books available, whereas Vedas remain as a topic of great reverence, but not properly learned or understood. So that's what we are going to do in this class. Then Yajna, and there is a summary. So without the original date when the rishis got these mantras revealed to them when they were in the superconscious state is considered to be much, much earlier than 3000 BCE. We don't want to get into that date because there are always controversy on what the Westerners started saying, how old the Vedas are, versus the new archaeological evidence in the last 30, 50 years, which puts it much, much earlier, the Harappan civilization and all that. In any case, around 3000 BC, which is fairly well accepted, Veda Vyasa, because the year of the Mahabharata war has been scientifically proven and set at 3067 BCE. So that's the period of Vyasa, Krishna Dvaivayana. So Veda Vyasa created the Veda Samhita, all the mantras which various rishis got. There are over 400 rishis in the Rig Veda and many other rishis as well. And each group had received a lot of mantras and they were all lying scattered. There was no proper documentation. He compiled them all into one large Samhita, Veda Samhita, with all Veda mantras of all rishis, and many of them may have been lost. Later, he organized the single Samhita into 4 Samhitas called the Rik. Rik, there are 3 types of mantras, Rik, Yajus, and Saman. So the 3 types of mantras, Rik means a poetic verse. It has a particular chandas. That is called a Rik. Yajus as a prose and Riks. Sama are Rik mantras that can be sung in the Saman way. And Atharva has mostly Rik mantras, but so he collected them into 4 Samhitas. Now, all knowledge about Vedas were not only to rishis. They taught it to their disciples, but there were no documented texts or that can be passed down. So when the Rishi period ended or the Vedic period ended, texts had to be developed to understand the Vedas. Brahmanas was the first text developed, and Brahmanas contain about yajnas, the meanings, the vessels to be used, what type of yajnas and all that. And Brahmanas also contain spirituality and knowledge aspects. Later on, Aranyakas and Upanishads were developed. But the current conventional messaging is that Samhitas, the Veda Samhitas or Veda Mantra Samhitas and Brahmanas together form Karmakanda. Aranyakas and Upanishads are known as the Jnanakanda of the Vedas. Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, and Brahma Sutras are known as the Prasthanatrayi, the 3 foundational texts of Jnana. The Vedas or Veda Samhitas are known for karmas or rituals, yajnas, typing, and generally known as the word of wisdom. All these 4 conventional messaging, perhaps, in my opinion, due to knowing only 2 out of 3 meanings of Veda mantras until recently. I will explain all this as we go along. So how are Vedas practiced currently, or the last 100 years, or last 500 years? If we look at it, how are these Vedas practiced? Jaimini wrote Dharma Mimamsa Sutra, Athatho Dharma Jityasa, that is the first sentence, where he talked, because after the Rishi period, people wanted to know what is in Vedas, how to understand the Vedas. So Jaimini was the first one who developed the Mimamsa Sutras. Time is not particularly known, but certainly in the early part of this current era, 5th to 7th centuries, Mimamsakas, Shabari Swamin, Kumarila Bhatta and others followed and wrote many bhashyas and karikas, and they established that the correct chanting and correct performance of yajna will yield the phala result for the yajna. And Sayanacharya, who studied Vedas under Sringeri Mutt in Karnataka, who later on became the Prime Minister of Vijayanagara Empire, he collected a team of over 100 Vedic scholars and Sanskrit scholars, and he published a book called Vedartha Prakasha. Prakasha means light, Vedartha, the meaning of the Vedas, word by word, direct or external meanings of all Veda mantras. So that is the first documented meaning to understand the Veda mantras done by any scholar. So just imagine, if 3000 BCE is the time Veda Vyasa classified this into 4 Vedas and organized 4 leaders to learn all the Veda mantras by heart and teach it to their students and memorize them by memory, by oral chanting, and generation after generation, the Vedas are preserved from 3000 BCE onwards until 14th century. The scholars knew, but they will discuss the meanings to their disciples and to those around him and to all the people who were talking to them. But no document was there. That came the very first time in 14th century. So Jaimini's Mimamsa, Dharma Mimamsa Sutra, and Saina's meanings taught in all Veda Padashala. So the Veda is now the yajnas and the karmas and all the functions, your marriage, when a birth happens, the namakarana, the upanayana, the chavala, all the samskaras that are described in all our books are being conducted by the priests who learn these Vedas in the Veda Padashala, and there they use the Mimamsa and the Saina's direct meanings. Veda Samhitas, Jaimini Sutras, and Saina's word-by-word meanings were all available in Sanskrit. Max Muller, a German scholar, Wilson, R.T.H. Griffith, British scholars, the interest started in Germany and UK to learn about Vedas. So they came to India, learned Sanskrit from Indian Sanskrit teachers, and lo and behold, the Veda Samhita, the Jaimini Sutras, and Saina's word-by-word meanings, because Sanskrit was the spoken and written and all business language in India at that time. So Saina's Vedartha Prakasha, the meaning of all these Veda mantras were also in Sanskrit by simpler words of Sanskrit to explain the difficult words in the Veda. So everything was in Sanskrit. So these scholars, Max Muller, Wilson Griffith, only had to do to learn Sanskrit from Indian Sanskrit teachers, and they all wrote English translation of Saina's Rigveda and other Veda mantra meanings that was published in Sanskrit by Saina. These 3 authors in the 19th century, in fact, Wilson published in 1864 and 1866, Griffith published in the 1890s, and Max Muller, Griffith also published in 1850s and 60s, and Max Muller published in 1900. So at the end of the 19th centuries, we have English books about Veda and their meanings. However, 2 difficulties arose, that are the 2 limitations, if I say. Veda mantras contain symbols and symbolism. Without understanding these or the Adhyatmic meanings, the spirituality of Vedas not fully understood. Absent availability of Adhyatmic meanings, Muller, Wilson, and Griffith concluded that Vedas do not make any sense. For example, there is a passage in Veda mantra that says, Gobi Adrim Ariyet. So, go generally means, external meaning is cows. Adri is hill, Ariyet, destroyed. So, one would read by the Vedic mantra that somebody, let's say Indra is the Deva, he destroyed the hills to get the cows. That is how Saina's book translates, and that is how English translated. So that does not make any sense, because how can you destroy a hill if there are cows in the hill to save them. So it doesn't make any sense. But really what is meant by that is the adhyatmic meaning. Only after Aurobindo came later, when we find that one, the adhyatmic meaning, what it says is, go means knowledge. Hill means ignorance or inconscience. So by Indra, by working with the Deva Indra, your ignorance will be removed and knowledge will be provided. That is exactly what the Vedic passage means. But the direct external word meaning translation does not give us the right meaning. So these English authors concluded that these Vedas do not contain any wisdom, and they are used for some rituals. And the rishis, some rishis may say that the sun has not risen because his internal, inside, he had some negative thoughts. And he attributes that sun, the light has not come. Why did they get negative thoughts? If there was light, the negative thoughts would not come. So rishis may say the sun has not risen. So these people concluded that, oh, they don't even know that sun will rise every day. So they are illiterate, they are nomad. They added all these skepticism. And even today, if one Googles for the meaning of any RV mantra, one will get Griffith's meanings. And it may not make much sense. So those skepticisms of Veda Samhitas written by in English by Max Muller. We even have a Max Muller Bhavan in Chennai. We are still glorifying Max Muller, even though he has not, even the later time towards the end of his death and all that, he said Vedas as a great contribution and that is great wisdom and all that. But generally in the English translations, they have expressed skepticism and they claim Vedas have no wisdom. The rishis are nomads and illiterates and all that. And those skepticism, all Indian people, nobody knew Sanskrit, so they cannot learn the Vedas and directly understand what it means. So everyone has to read English, and people all over the world has to rely on English. All of them concluded that Vedas do not contain wisdom, and the study of the Vedas also was not followed. However, as we all know, all Veda mantras, in fact, all scriptural texts have three meanings. And in fact, Madhvacharya in 33 have stated, Trayartho vai sarva vedashu, three meanings. What are the three meanings? The Adi Daivik, the Adi Baudik, and Adhyatmik. Jaimini's Mimamsa Sutras or Saina used only direct external meanings and hence did not bring out the wisdom aspects of the Vedas. Sri Aurobindo's vision and Adhyatmic meanings, the third of the three meanings, brought out the wisdom in the Vedas. Aurobindo, 1914 onwards, started working on this, and he said Vedas have spiritual and psychological meanings, first by his direct vision as a yogi, and later by complete study. Now, I am going to explain. So what is the spiritual meaning? I'm going to explain in three key points. The first point is Supreme Spirit or Purusha of Rigveda, also known as Tadegam or Egam Sat, one reality in many RV mantras, Devas or powers of light like Agni, Indra, etc. And Dasyus are the dark forces. All these are discussed in Vedas. And Aurobindo did not have to do anything. Even Saina has described all that, but the only thing is they did not properly highlight this importance. But the 2 and 3 are specific contributions of Aurobindo, power of mantra and inner life of human beings. Now, I will briefly take you through Purusha. Vedas declare the existence of Supreme Spirit or Purusha in Purusha Sukta, and also Tadegam, that one, or Egam Sat in many mantras. Purusha or Supreme Spirit is immanent and transcendental. There is only the Purusha or the Spirit and nothing else in this manifestation. The one becomes many by entering into everything in the manifestation. Thus, the manifestations consist of many. The Vedas give equal importance to one and the many. Now, other point to note is Deva word has come from Div, to shine. And Devas are powers of light. But in the English translation, they use the word Deva means God. That is not at all correct. That is a non-translatable word, Deva, power of light. The Devas are supra-physical beings. They are not personalities like the Puranic gods. They are supra-physical beings. They have conscience and they have power and they can work from anywhere to anywhere. And similarly, there are Dasyus, powers of darkness. This is coming in the Puranas as Devas and Asuras. And there are symbolic battles between Devas and Dasyus. Now, the second verse of Rig Veda is Purusha evedagam sarvam yad bhutam yachabhavyam. What that means is Purusha eva idagam sarvam. Purusha alone is everything here. Yad bhudam yachabhavyam. Whatever occurred in the past, what occurs presently, and whatever will occur in future is all directed and controlled by the Supreme Spirit, the cosmic spirit. You can call it as a Purusha or Tadegam, that one. If you look at the first mantra of Mandukya Upanishad, Om ityedadaksharam idagam sarvam tasyobhavakyanam vavyakyanam bhudam bhavat bhavishyat iti sarvam onkareva yachanyat trigaledidam tadabi onkareva. So what is the meaning of the Mandukya Upanishad statement? This letter Om is all this. All that is past, present, and future is Om. Whatever is beyond the three periods is also Om. That is what Mandukya Upanishad. And everyone goes to Upanishad as the Jnanam. And that has come directly from Rig Veda Purusha Sutta. Purusha evedagam sarvam yad bhutam yachabhavyam. Purusha, you can say, that is where the double meaning, the direct meaning, you can say Purusha is a personality, and you can say it is Mahavishnu or Shiva or Vidya, Sri Vidya, depending upon which Upasaka you are. That is all the spirit. But if you can say it is cosmic, but it Veda calls it Tat Egam, Egam Sat. So notice the close similarity between these two. Now, essay on the power of mantras. The mantras allow us to see the world or thought beyond our senses. For us to see what is within our senses, you don't need the mantra. So this mantra allows you to see or think beyond our senses. This contact with the supra-physical world endows the person who sees with a certain power, which depends upon how closely he chants mantras and he sincerely follows and all that. This mantra can create new subjective states in ourselves. It can alter our physical being. It can reveal knowledge and faculties we did not possess before. It can produce all those in listeners as well. So you only need to listen to the mantra. It can produce vibrations that result in actions and production of material forms. This is a very positive contributions made by Aurobindo to promote the mantra. And he says mantras is the way to connect with these supra-physical beings, Devas, and the spirit. And now the Vedas' greatest power is Vedic teaching is to the inner life of human beings. And Aurobindo describes them in these words. Human beings live in the physical cosmos subject to death and falsehood. Anurtasya Bhure in Rig Veda, 7th Mandala, 60th Sutta, 5th Mantra. And Aurobindo asks the question, how to rise beyond death? Veda says that people must turn from falsehood to truth, must turn to the light, to the Devas, battle and conquer the powers of darkness, the Dasyus. How to do these things? By communion with the divine powers and with their help. This is Aurobindo's word because Aurobindo studied in England, so he learned many other religions as well. Communion is a word used this. I personally would not want to, I wanted to change it, but I retained it only to say Aurobindo's actual quote. By our one-to-one relationship with the Devas, divine powers, how to communion. This is the secret of the Vedic mystics and perhaps the secret of the Vedas. And what is this secret? symbols of the outer yajna. We all perform yajna. We call a priest and we do a yajna. And even though it has been said that yajnas give you the phala for the particular yajna that you do, if you do Ganapati Homa, it has certain power. If you do Navagraha Homa, it has some other power. If you do Rudra Homa, it has some other, various homas are there. And people have projected as a prosperity or a transactional nature. But Aurobindo says the outer yajna has an inner meaning. What is that inner meaning? The Veda mantras are chanted. If you sincerely pay attention to the Veda mantras and carry on the activities of the yajna, you are calling the Devas into the human being with a connecting yajna, an intimate interchange between Deva and the person who does the yajna or conducts yajna for you, and a mutual aid, a communion. There is a building of the powers of Devas within the human being, which gives rise to a formation of universality of divine nature in those human beings. Now here I want to caution again, the word divine is used differently from the English meaning of divine. Like for example, there is Harvard's School of Divinity, which is a school of religion type thing. But that is not the divinity that we are talking about. The divine used as having come from the Sanskrit word div. Div means to shine. So Deva is come from the word div, that means power of light, power of truth, and energy, the cosmic energy. So the Devas refer to the cosmic energies, and divinity is these supraphysical beings, not the God of the Western religion. So the way to, Devas are the guardians and increases of truth. So by chanting the mantra and inviting the Deva will come to us and increase our level of truth. And the way of truth is the way. The way to immortality is the upward way of the Devas. The way of truth, a journey and ascent in the law of truth. Hridasya patya. Human beings arrive at immortality by breaking past physical self and mental and psychic nature into highest plane of supreme truth to the native seat of triple infinite Satchit Ananda. Based on such reasoning, Vedic rishis built up spiritual and a psychological discipline which led beyond itself to a higher spirituality. So what are the existence, knowledge, and Ananda? Existence, ekam sat, tad ekam. Ekam sat, vipra bahuda bhavanti. That's a famous quote. Most people who know Veda are not a chant, but even though they misinterpret that thing, ekam sat, vipra bahuda bhavanti, what they say is, you can, ekam sat, the reality is one. You can call them as Deva Agni, you can call them as Deva Indra, you can call it as Deva thing. But some people explain, say, that all religions are the same. Vedas do not talk about other religions. Vedas talk about only the cosmic energies and this. So, Ekam Sat Vipra Bhudavadi, learned people call them by name. You can worship Deva Agni, you can worship Deva Indra. All of them have the same power of the Ekam Sat. And this Ekam Sat of, or that one reality of Rig Veda is what has become Brahman of the later Upanishads, or in Bhagavad Gita, Uttama Purusha or Purushottama, Lord Krishna explains to Arjuna. And what is the knowledge from the Vedic context? Knowledge is the greater truth of an immortal life versus ignorance, you staying in the earth level, where falsehood or mixed truth and falsehood of ordinary mortal exists. And Ananda is when we perform madhu in the atmosphere, soma, when any person does a work well, then that person gets a happiness or delight. That delight is called the soma, and a person must return that delight to the Devas. That is why Indra said, Soma, he drank Soma, but of course it has been misinterpreted in many Puranas and stories and all that, that Indra drank Soma, which is a spirit or alcoholic drink, and he became things and he killed Vritra. So many stories are there, but that is not what it means. Soma is the joy or delight that each person obtains when they perform a work with near perfection that they can do. They derive a joy. That joy we transfer back to the Deva. Oh, Deva, you guided me the right way to perform. You gave me the sufficient powers to do that. The cosmic energy, you return back to the cosmic energy. That is Soma. So, discipline of an inward growth of human beings from the physical through psychic, which is connected with our soul, to the spiritual experience. There is the conquest of death, the secret of immortality, and the perception of a realizable divinity. Divinity, again, not in the English word or the Abrahamic context, but the divinity as the energy of nature, the supra-physical being with consciousness and power. Every energy in the if you have read many physics books, you can say the self-aware universe. So many people have written books. Many physicists have explained that this is a very active and knowledgeable way. This there is consciousness in what is happening over here. This, according to Sri Aurobindo, was inspired and it is psychic and spiritual teaching by which ancient human fathers, Manushya Yajne Jate Pitaro Na Purane, Rigveda mantra, founded the great and profound civilization in India. So how do humans achieve realizable divinity, realizable spirituality? By spiritualizing or divinizing our life. How? By inviting the Devas to the inner beings. How to invite the Devas? By chanting the Veda mantras or listening to the Veda mantras being chanted by those who know to chant, by participating in yajnas. In both cases, you are inviting the Devas. Devas accept such invitation and they place an emanation or one of their power in the subtle body of the chanter or listener. This is described in many Veda mantras as Devas taking birth. By continual chanting the mantras or listening to mantras and doing the yajnas, the emanation grows and full power of Deva reaches the chanter or listener. Each of the Rigvedic Devas of Agni, Indra, Soma, Surya, they have specific psychological powers attributed to that Deva. Each of the Devas is also referred to as the supreme, Tadegam, and has powers of Tadegam as per the mantra, Rigveda mantra 1:164:46. Now, I have shown a few slides here, but I'll show two of them. There is a Deva known as Agni. When you do the yajna, in all our functions, we have havans, Agni. Agni is a symbol. The physical association is fire. The psychological power or title, Agni has the psychological power of divine will. Aspiration and willpower, strength, happiness, calmness, or determination. So by repeatedly chanting the mantra for Agni, we can develop the willpower. And again, this is another statement. Unlike the modern psychology, our rishis have established that you can develop psychological powers that you are not born with, or you are born with, which are dormant, because the dasyus, along with Devas, there are dasyus also in this. So the dasyus have to be defeated, and only these powers will divine will. And Indra is the energy body, divine mind. Indra is pictured as a cloud breaker and a cloud is a divine mind, intelligent clarity of thinking, correct action. So out of 10,552 mantras, 2,000 mantras for Agni, by these rishis, and 2,500 mantras for Indra. Almost 50% of the mantras are for these two devas. So chanting the mantras for these two devas will provide you with the psychological power. And then Soma, moon, or lot of delight. Delight, correct actions here. You get delight only when you have the satisfaction of having done the job correctly. So Soma will aid to get correct also by inviting Soma. And you give back the Soma Rasa when you do a perfect job. The satisfactory year you give back to the Deva. The Surya, the sun, Lord of inner light, he is the master of spiritual consciousness, knowledge, power, etc. There are many, many more powers written in my book. Then Agni, cosmic power of divine will, coupled with wisdom. The more a person exposes himself or herself to the power of Agni, the more perfect becomes his work. Unlike modern psychology, Veda declares that it is possible to develop systematically within us the power of will coupled with wisdom. Indra helps human beings attain divine mind and develops all-round perfection, manifests knowledge to those aspiring for it, provides protection from hostile dasyus, battles these hostile forces, not only at cosmic level, but also in the inner life of every individual. And dasyus, Vedas describe dasyus. Dasyus are powers of darkness and falsehood. They dissuade the flow of positive energies coming from Tadegam and Devas from reaching the human beings. So you may ask, why should there be powers of darkness? Who created the powers of darkness? Why should Tadegam, if he is such a supreme spirit and all that, he wants to help everybody and all that, why would he create this? No, rather than looking at it, we must look at it slightly differently. They all may have been originally Devas, but misused their powers and they became into Dasyus. But whatever they may, you can imagine the Dasyus as nothing but our own, you see, as we say, hey, we have discovered the enemy and it is us. What do we mean by that? The Dasyus are nothing but the Shad Ribus. Ribu means enemies. Who are the 6 negative traits? Kama, desire, Krodha, anger, Lobha, greed, Moha, delusion, Mada, pride, Matsarya, jealousy. In all of us, we have all these things. Why we need to divinize? Why we need to spiritualize? Why we need to invite Devas? To move from a life of truth and falsehood to life of truth. Some of you may ask, yeah, are you telling me I'm leading a life of falsehood? Whether you are as truthful as you can be, occasionally we are tempted. That's what I'm not saying it. But this whole world is lot of dasyus present. Powers of darkness are present. And powers of darkness are within us. So we need these devas not only to help us strengthen the psychological powers of willpower. Without willpower, we will not be able to complete a task. We start a project, after a week or two, whatever reason we may say, some reason we will find, oh, that is at the wrong time, or that is too much assignment, or the teacher is not explaining well, something, and we drop out. It has nothing to do with the teacher or any of it. It is all due to lack of willpower. So by inviting Agni, by doing Homa, by paying attention to these, the Agni power can come. And your immediately willpower increase. Similarly, Indra, that will come to us. They remove the dasyus within us. So for 2 reasons, to move from a life of truth and falsehood to a life of truth. Second, human beings by their own efforts are unable to get rid of dasyus or shatribus. For example, everyone knows who have gone to study Vedanta that we have got to meditate, and the self will reveal itself when all the impurities covering that is removed. But however much we sit in meditation and all that, the dasyus are more powerful than the human beings. Our anger is not going to subject. We'll say, I'm not angry anymore as long as things go my way. But the moment things go that I did not expect, then we snap. Only by anger will go, only when these devas come and defeat the Dasyus Indus. And there is a sukta between Indra and Agastya. I have no time to say. I want to discuss a few more and stop this talk in 5 minutes so that you can ask questions. And there are 7 logas discussed and consciousness levels. I said this chanting of Veda mantras and speaking with them allows us to rise in consciousness levels. So there is a statement, Prithivya Saptadama Vihi. The universe is divided into 7 logas, non-physical worlds. In a conceptual sense, each Dhamma or loga has a level of consciousness. Earth is the lowest level. We are in all in level 1. And the 7th is the supreme level conscious. Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha. Yeah, they are the world name in Veda, Upanishads, and Purana. Bhuloga, gross matter. Then Andariksha, Prana or Bhuvarloga. Dyu or Suvarloga, the world of supermind or Vijnana. This is what Aurobindo calls the supermind, the ideal mind or supermind, the 4th loga. 5th one is bliss, Ananda or Janaloga. 6th is Chit, awareness, Tapologa, knowledge. And 7th is Satiloga. So these 7 logas, Rishis viewed the entire manifestation as a stair or ladder of consciousness or a mountain, several peaks. Human beings in earth are in station 1. The aim of life is to climb this stair or ladder step by step and to reach immortality by 7. Now, the fact that there is a path to immortality, and don't say that, oh, I don't know anyone who has reached immortality and continues and all this, so this is all not true and all that. No, it may not happen in one lifetime. We may need many, many lifetimes to move from station 1 itself. But even if we rise slightly higher, we'll be able to do tasks better, because then we'll be able to see the task better. I can give an example. The National Football League, I don't know whether anyone are the American football, National Football League watchers. Then if you notice that the head coach, the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator will be on the sidelines, but there will be the play callers, who calling the play for the offense and defense, sitting in a higher level, 1 level higher, because they can see the field better, and they will call in the plays to the coach. Coach has the ultimate authority on the side to the play, but they use that higher level. So in the same manner, if your consciousness slightly increases from the level of the earth consciousness, then you are able to see things better and your task will become more perfect. Now, you can draw this 7 kosha, the pure or essential being kosha, the Atman, then the gross matter, then vital prana kosha, then manomaya kosha, then vijnanamaya kosha, then Satchidananda. So that is the 7. Now, if you convert the last 5, Satchidananda, into 1, then you get the Panchakosha of the Taittiriya Upanishad that very frequently discussing the Vedas and all that. Now, I want to spend 2 minutes on the yajnas. Ya means striving for. Ya means knowledge. Even though people contribute yajna is a ritual and it is not, the yajna word itself is coined to strive for knowledge. But if it has a material prosperity angle, and that is sold, because all of us may not be ready for knowledge. There are so many people who are finding it harder to put bread on the table, to raise their family. He loses the job, so he goes to the priest. I want to get a job. Oh, do this homa. So it has the Jaimini's Dharma Mimamsa Sutra and the sign as external word meaning power, that the correct yajna, correct chanting and correct performance yajna will tell his fruits, and he gets a material prosperity also. But that is not the only purpose of the yajna. And as Aurobindo said, the outer yajna has an inner meaning. Inner meaning is that everybody is not ready for the inner. Only the elites or the professionals or the businessmen or the academicians, they are looking for the knowledge aspects. So many, if you can analogy of the total people in a pyramid, so many people at the base of the pyramid are 90% or more are finding it very hard to put in living. So to them, the prosperity allows them to rise. Then they seek knowledge also, and all of them is available in the Veda. Yajna is a sequence of sacred actions undertaken jointly by husband and wife to invoke the blessings of the thing. And the inner yajna, goal of inner yajna is the complete self-giving and the full divinization, spiritualization of one's faculties. Performer and all participants who seek such a divine help will be divinized. They are to give their joy, bliss by performance, the Soma Rasa to the gods. And Sri Aurobindo says, the object of the sacrifice is to win the higher or divine being, not to the process. It will also give you prosperity. Excuse me. It will also give you prosperity if that is what you are seeking mainly. But you should not dismiss it because some people are doing it to get their prosperity. If you are already prosperous, you don't want that. Because of that, you cannot condemn this yajna. Yajna has also this power to seek the higher or divine being. Hey, let all my ribus, shad ribus, kama, krodha, lobha, moha. I get angry, I am very jealous, I am very possessive. All those negative traits go. I want to be, because without truth, as each loga goes higher and higher up, if you want to go higher up, we have to remove the impurities. And that is what the Vedas, the Upanishad also says. When all the impurities, the self will reveal itself. For that self to reveal also, you need to get the power of Deva. By sitting in a corner and meditating, we will not be able to remove our shatribus. So Aurobindo says, object of the sacrifice is to win the higher or divine being, possess with it, and make the lower or human existence subject to its law of the divine being. The inner yajna versus outer yajna. Inner yajna, the soul of yajamana, the person who performs. In the outer yajna, the priest is performing the yajna for the Jataragni or fire inside. There is an external fire Vedi. Inner yajna, the mortal possessions of body, prana, mind, and mental offered to the Devas to be divinized. In the external yajna, offerings of ghee, rice cakes, and other external offerings are made in the fire altar. Mantras chanted by the Yajamana, understanding the meanings, or mantras chanted by the priest, invited by the Yajamana to perform the yajna. And as long as you are willing to request the Devas to come to you, the inner request, priest chant the mantras. The goal, divinization or spiritualization. You want to spiritualize your life and material prosperity as per Gemini and Sina. And now I come to the summary. Only two of the three meanings of Veda Samhitas, Jaimini's Dharma Mimamsa Sutras, they are not exactly the Adi-Daivic part, because Gemini's Dharma Mimamsa also says you don't need any god to give you the phala of the yajna, the correct chanting and correct performance. Just like every correct action gets its own reward. So that is what they saw. I don't want to say Jaimini's Dharma Mimamsa is equal to Adi-Daivic, but it is analogous to the Adi-Daivic. And Sina's external word meanings are definitely equal to or analogous to Adi-Baudik. So these are the only two of the three meanings that are presently, and that is why the erroneous messaging of Vedas are suited only for karma, and it is transactional yet and all that. Recent understanding of Sri Aurobindo's spiritual and psychological meanings, the third of three meanings for all Veda mantras and all our scriptures. In fact, if you don't use the Adhyatmic meaning, in fact, Kalyanji was telling me recently in a private conversation that Vishnu Suktangar has written books on Mahabharata with Adhyatmic meanings. So whether it is Purana, whether it is Upanishad, without Adhyatmic meanings, we cannot get the detailed wisdom in all those scriptures. So all our scriptures require that meaning, and how Vedas alone, no one followed the Adhyatmic meanings is not known. So with this availability, it has restored to its original book of wisdom known to mankind after 5,000 years, helps also to better understand the purpose of the karma, yajna, puja, worship aspects. All three meanings are valid and useful for different levels of practitioners of Sanatana Dharma. Study and practice of Vedas will help people to spiritualize their lives and perform tasks with greater perfection. You can do any task you want, but because you spiritualize by inviting the Devas, whatever task you do, you can be a housewife, you can be a chartered accountant, you can be an engineer, you can be a lawyer, you can be a doctor, whatever work to do. You can be a painter, you can be a chariot builder, you can be a builder of temples, the Gopurams, all the Sabadis, all of them go through Vedic learning and the divinizing and all that. Will help, this Vedas will help the study and understanding of all Sanatana Dharma spiritual texts that have come out of the Veda Samhitas. With this, I conclude this talk, and I'm available to take any questions.
Wonderful. That was so much. In the Vedas, there's so much information, and you did such a wonderful job of putting it into a short presentation. People are asking for your slides. People can send messages just to hosts and panelists. I don't think we'll be sharing the slides, but the recording of the webinar will be made available. But better yet, you should enroll in the course, because that is where Dr. Swami is going to get into a lot more details. But if you have questions now, please put in the chat any of your questions. Dr. Swami, I'm going to close your sharing screen so people can see us. Okay, Sampaji is asking a question in the chat. I'll take it because there's no other questions in the Q&A box, but please put your questions in the Q&A box. Sampaji is asking, is there room for atheists or those who claim to be spiritual but do not believe in rituals in the cosmic view of the Vedas?
Definitely. In fact, it is for everybody. In fact, we must remove the misconception that that is what I want to say. There is a group called SBNR, spiritual but not religious. And I consider that as ironic in the context of Sanatana Dharma followers, because Sanatana Dharma, everyone knows that you are not the body, you are the spirit. So Vedas, in fact, where did Vedanta get all this information? All from Vedas. All the mantras. I showed a slide where Purusha evedagam sarvam yad bhudam yad chabhavyam. And that is the same thing what it says. They use the word instead of Purusha, Tadegam, that one. Many mantras in Veda says Tadegam, that one, or the Egam Sat, one reality. In Vedanta, they call it Om. You can call it anything you want. Of course, Om is a more universally accepted term, and they use Brahman. Brahman is that there are no different spirit for Veda and for Vedanta. There's only one spirit in this cosmos, and anyone can reach. So the atheists and all that, if you don't want religion, if you don't want to go to, that's okay. But you can invite Deva. There is a distinction between. The whole problem is we don't know Sanskrit, so we have to rely on English book, and English books translate Deva to God, then it becomes religious. The moment you say Deva is a supra-physical, it has no physical body, that is why we also say that your God is omnipresent, omnipotent. If you give him a human form, how can that human form be omnipotent? So therefore, Vedas never talk about religion. Vedas only talk about spirit. The whole spirituality and wisdom is in Vedas. But the third, that meaning got lost with the Rishi period. Then, because there is so much to be said, as Ankur says, I have to go much slower, and there is 11 into 1.5. I get 16.5 hours to explain all these, what I did in less than an hour, in 45 minutes. So
great. the nuance between, right, from atheist to spiritual but not religious, but the super, right, amazing little
that it is that you have to, in fact, everyone must start with, then everything Vedanta will become easy, the rituals will become the understanding easy. You can still go for material prosperity, but the elite or the atheist or the academic professor, they can have this inner meditation, whatever they do to become self-realized, but they do not see much change. You can do any amount of, I'm not saying you, but it is hard to remove our shadribus on our own without devas coming, these spirits coming, and that cosmic energy. You see, we all go out on a very cold day outside because we know sun has the heat. But when I say sun has, in addition to heat, has also a psychological power of inner lighting, removing the desues. So you do Surya Namaskar and the yoga and all those things. Why don't you accept that? On a cold day when there is a sun, oh, it is cold inside, I'm going out to get heat. That is well known. But sun also has a psychological power that will improve your dark feelings, the tamas. And in fact, all of you have heard, tamasoma jyotirgamaya. What do you mean by that? Invite the devas, the tamas or the dasyus. Simply by saying tamasoma jyotirgamaya, we have the same anger. We snap at our family, we snap at our friends who don't say positive things about us. All these things, if you want to get invited the devas, chant Agni mantras and Indra mantras. Next question.
The author of the Vedas? Kind of a general question if you want
no,
to.
There is no other, no human intellect. They have received revealed mantras. All the Veda mantras are revealed. That is our faith, and that has been verified also. And in fact, even now, in the 20th century, people have asked me also this before. You mean to say only those rishis could get mantras? Even in 1917, there is a Daivarata in the Karnataka state, Gokarna, and another, his master was with him, and about 450 mantras he was feeling out. But one has to go through the super conscious state in meditation that requires enormous practice. If you do that, you can even today get revealed mantras. So there is no other, it is revelation. And this revelation is very different from the Semitic religions. It is not written in some scrolls and dropped somewhere that you can go and pick it up. It is available. Even today, if you go through the rigors that rishis went through, you can still receive mantras, newer mantras.
Invite Vedics from India. I'll put my email in the chat. You can send me some details. We'd love to get new people, new faculty, different folks participating with Hindu University of America. And that's why Dr. Swami is here with us today. This is the first course he will be teaching at HUA, right? I think that you haven't taught any courses.
Not before.
And we look for new people and new experts and other folks to participate. So
sorry to, I want to add one more. Not only once the interview, we can do more courses, specific to Rig Veda, to Yajur Veda. We can do so many. There are more options. Once people understand more and more, and once people ask questions, and in the classroom session, there will be a discussion among students, and I'll pose some questions, one term paper, their understanding that I can try to correct or answer all the questions and all that. That's how the class is designed.
Yeah, actually, maybe you can get into that a little bit more in terms of how the class is designed. So it's going to be on our HUA learning management system. We're in a quarter system. I'll drop the start and the end dates in the chat.
Yeah.
But are they expected to do homework? What is the test,
the
writing?
They can write. I want a term paper, what they understood at the midterm, and a final term paper. That is a must, so that I can correct, and if that understanding needs improvement or alternate way of looking at it. So each will have to write a midterm paper and a final term paper. The exams are all optional.
And will the class kind of be like this? You give a presentation on a particular
Yeah,
part and then take questions?
the class is based on my book. There's in Amazon, Understanding the Vedas. That book, I will follow that. There are 11 chapters, and almost the first 2 chapters may be covered in the first class, and there are some YouTube videos already available that I already given, as Ankur mentioned in the beginning of the introduction, that I have given private seminars, and I gave a 12 1.5 lectures based on my book from September 26, 2021 to December 12, 2021, every Sunday morning 8 to 8, close to 200 people at it, because it was a free lecture at that time. And to my friends who sent to their friends and all that. And those 12 videos are available in the YouTube. So the book, Understanding the Vedas, will be the class text. And I will give reading assignment. You read the first 2 chapters, if not in the first class, but in the second class, first 2 chapters, third and fourth in the third, and so on. And the spirituality and wisdom part, that will be discussed in detail in 2 classes. What I did in about 30 minutes, less than 30 minutes today, that will be discussed in about 2 classes. And 1 or 2 mantras, I would like everyone to repeat. One Agni mantra, I show them how to chant that mantra, the very first mantra of the Rig Veda. So that mantra, I would like to chant every attendee. These are my current goals.
Great, great. So, and I put the details in the chat right now. The course title is Understanding the Vedas. There's a link to the course right there. It's going to be every Thursday. It's going to start this Thursday, July 13th. It's going to go until September 21st, and it's going to be 9 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Pacific time. And at the same time, let me launch a quick poll. Let us know if you are interested in taking this course. Yes, definitely. If you have questions, maybe later. And then I have 3 questions kind of below that about our webinar program and structure. We're going to be updating our webinars. We have 4 webinars this weekend. This is the 3rd one of this weekend. And so we're glad that 35 of you joined today. We appreciate your engagement. Keep the questions coming. We still have some time. Dr. Swamiji is going to answer a few more questions. And I see other people dropping things in the chat. Please ask them in the Q&A box, and we'll try to get to all of them. Vivekji is asking, is it possible to achieve the supreme goal of life without ascending to higher planes? For example, a housewife doing her karma and dharma, but not necessarily having deep spiritual knowledge.
Clearly, what work one does is immaterial, but one must invite the Devas. One might spiritualize while doing the karma. Of course, there are so many views expressed, and I am not here to agree or disagree with some of them. I will say what I know. The housewife can also ascend to higher levels of that, as long as the Shadribus get removed. If one can do it without inviting Devas, that will be great. But there is an easier way. That is what our rishis are saying. Without inviting Devas, fighting the Dasyus are not possible. If you know from the Puranas, the Dasyus are, I said an example of our Shadribus, but the other example is in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16 says, Daivasura Sambat Vibhaga Yoga. Devi Sambat. In fact, the first sloka, Lord Krishna says, there are only 2 types of people. Either they are Daivi Sambat or Asuri Sambat. And then very clearly he says, Abhayam Sattva Samsiddhi. There are 26 characteristics described in Bhagavad Gita, stanzas 3, 4, and 5, chapter 16. 26. try to attain these 26 characteristics. I am answering in response to the question whether this housewife can achieve ascent to the once all the 26 characteristics, abhayam, sattva samshuddhi. Sattva samshuddhi means even in your solo thinking, it should be sattvam. Sattva samshuddhi is almost so difficult, however much we try. And that's only the second, abhayam, fearless all the time. Abhayam, sattva samshuddhi, it goes on and all that. That's when we discuss Bhagavad Gita class, you will learn all this in detail. And then he goes on from 6th to 18 or so, the characters of Daivi Sambat. And many of us can find more than one of those characteristics, even while we find it difficult on that. So to answer the question, that is the goal. Then you are rising in consciousness level. And if you are one out of the 26 characteristics, then you are slightly above the lowest level of the earth. Earth itself may have various levels, like someone who is thinking, smiling and thinking always positively, very few negative traits. They are living in this one, but they have a higher level of consciousness. So there may be many housewives like that, so pure in that one. So it is quite possible. The knowledge is not that. That is what all this jnana and everyone has to study Upanishad and self-real. That is have so many ways are there. If that is one way, there is an easier way by Vedas that everyone can do their karma. In fact, our rishis were all married people. They raised a family. Their children, some of them became rishis. All that thing is described in the Vedas.
Progress regardless of your occupation and where you're at, as long as
your occupation, whether you have studied Upanishads or not, it doesn't matter. Maybe Upanishads are supposed to guide you faster. Veda says spiritualizing by chanting Veda mantras will remove your dasyus faster. But you have other ways of removing the dasyus. That will be fine. But they say the dasyus, the asuras are always pictured in Puranas as much, much stronger. Unless the Devas go to Krishna or Shiva and they find some ways to trick the asuras. Otherwise, they are much, much stronger. So the dasyus are stronger. That is what is pictured in the Devas. You cannot get rid of the dasyus on your own efforts. That is what the Devas are willing to help. And by removing, the moment the dasyus start dropping out, you are rising in consciousness level. So anyone who does not get angry, that person's consciousness is already higher. Whether that person happens to be a housewife or an intellectual, it doesn't matter.
Interesting. Okay, great. We have a couple more comments and questions from Kumar Nochur. Dr. Swami, thank you for presenting Sri Aurobindo's spiritual and psychological interpretation of the Vedas. I hope you can promote his Adhyatmic message with the Matatipas,
yes, that is
of our ashrams and mutts, since they are still stuck with Sayana and Jaimini.
Yeah, that is a very excellent point. And I want to tell you that I have not mentioned the name of a person, Professor R.L. Kashyap, because Aurobindo's teachings and along with the Kabali Shastri, Aurobindo died in 1950, 1914 onwards, he said. Then he spent much of his time on the integrated yoga also. Kabali Shastri joined him in the 40s, and they both translated about Aurobindo translated 3,000 mantras of Rig Veda, and Kabali Shastri translated about 1,000 mantras of Rig Veda. All four Vedas together, there are over 27,000 mantras. And this Professor Kashyap, who died last year, has translated all 27,000 mantras with Adhyatmic meanings, and it is available in 26 volumes without Professor Kashyap's thing. And I was so lucky, perhaps I was a Veda practitioner all these years, and I was searching where is the wisdom in Vedas? Where is the wisdom in Vedas? And this, I was connected with the Kashyap by an accidental meeting. So this is how existence works. I have been chanting mantras and all that. So knowingly or unknowingly, I've been inviting the Devas, and they connected me with the Kashyap in 2012. And I had a 10 long association with him. I learned all this 26 volume, I have all his work is there. Therefore, we need to promote that also, but very few people know about it. That is why I wrote the book, Understanding. Kashyap has done so many books, but they are at a higher level. I thought I have written it in a much ordinary English and all that, but I also hear that that also is not. So I'm writing a second book, Vedas for Success, little bit more simpler and smaller. So I am trying to promote that. But coming back to the central question, the Madhadhipatis, you see, even towards the end of the Rishi period, if only Adhyatmic meanings are available and they want to become Rishis, they are the people who are sitting at the top of the pyramid. They are very few percentage, less than 5% or 1% people have that intellectual and that level. But 90% of them are finding it hard to meet their life. They are asking, going to their priest asking, hey, my job is gone. I want to get a job quickly. I want to get my son married or daughter married. What should I do? Hey, you chant these mantras. These will give that power. So they are chanting, and he could have gotten more than just getting a job and all that. He could have invited the divines and he could have gone higher more and all that. But he is not interested at this time. He has to get over this financial problems. So the material prosperity, few intellectuals condemning that, when 90% of them are looking for job is lost, there is inflation, I cannot mean anything, my daughter has to be, all these things, they serve that purpose. So the Madhadhipatis are addressing the simple people who does not have a job, who wants to do that, continue the sainas and chant the mantras. And Jaimini also has said, you don't even need to understand the meaning, the correct chanting and the correct performance of the yajna. So changing the Madhadhipatis from that is not easy. That is what I want to say. But we continue to go to the Madhadhipatis because they have to address the 90%. And they have let in the spiritual Adhyatmic meanings, you guys fight the knowledge, this thing, whether Upanishad is the way to go to knowledge or the Adhyatmic meaning of Veda and all that. You, the 1% intellectuals, academicians, and elites have nothing else to do. You do these things. We are not into that one. We have to address these people. But we are gradually saying, why don't you mention this also, so that you can bring in the intellectuals also to the Madhadhipatis. So that's a good point. It is not for lack of trying, but it is not that easy to get the message to them. We are trying. But without their blessing, it will not get wider acceptance also. That also we know. But at least among intellectuals, if we can get start, then it will translate down so that they tell their children to learn the Vedas, or they try to do some yajnas. They don't have to believe in the outer yajna. They can do the inner yajna while the priest does the yajna. If we can convince a few and promote and expand this, and there is a PV or Narasimha Rao who promotes Agnihotra. There are about 300, 400, 500 people based on his, he has a website, his Twitter handle @homam108. So different people are trying different ways to get this message, but this message has to come to the academicians and intellectuals and business people. And once they also take interest, then we have to expand this in a all around level. That is one goal.
And that is exactly what we're doing here at Hindu University of America with the course. Kumarji, thank you for that question. And please invite the Devas into your life and your life through this course. So if you haven't filled out the poll yet, fill out the poll. Let us know if you're interested in this course. Only about half of the attendees have filled out the poll so far. Please look for it minimized. And just let us know if you're interested or not. Invite the Devas into your life, right? Through this course. That's a good line. I'm going to use that one. Anuja Ji from Dublin, Ohio. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't put in where you are zooming in from, I can do that before we end the webinar. We have a couple more questions. Let's try to get through all of them. We are nearing the end of our time. Prabhat Ji is asking, can the teaching of the Vedas be divided into two broad categories, Jnana and Karma?
That is the conventional message, and that is not correct. I do not want to promote that, because the Jnana, so if you say Jnana is in Vedanta, as the conventional messaging says, where did Vedanta come from? Where did Upanishad come from? And for you to know, in my book I have said, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the 6 chapters of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is the same as the last 6 chapters of the Shukla Yajurveda, Madhyantana, Shatapada, Brahmana. So the Aranyakas and Upanishads, the Chandogya Upanishad is the last 8 chapters of the Chandogya Brahmana. And yet there is a division. Samhitas and Brahmanas are Karmakanda. Aranyakas and Upanishads are Jnanakanda. Aranyakas and Upanishads came from the Brahmanas, which the same people who promote Upanishads have said that belong to Karmakanda. I'm telling you, and many mantras in this. I showed you one mantra. Om Yad Bhudam Yad Bhavishyat Trikaladidam Onkare Eva. The only terminology, they use the word Om, whereas Veda says Tadegam. So the division of karma and jnana, but the way it is practiced, because the Madhadhipatis have decided that our goal is to promote the chanting. If everyone says that the spiritual and inner meditation, then you can do that, then the whole Vedas will disappear. And that is what Rishis also did at the end of the Rishi period. Towards the end of the Rishi period, why did the Rishi period end? Because there are nobody to follow the Rishi way of discipline, inner yajna, and meditation, super consciousness, and all that. They all want to do the other traits over years. So when the Rishis thought, if we do not introduce the outer yajna, all the people will be doing different work and the Veda will disappear if outer yajna has not been introduced. So that was the reason for Rishis to say outer yajna. And since they are the same people who conduct the outer yajna and the inner yajna, they can tell the outer yajna people also if some of them are interested in that. But after the Rishi period, only outer yajna remained, and the outer yajna is being practiced by, that is the only way to maintain the relevance of Vedas. So Madhadhipatis, they say, we will take the Adi Devik and Adi Baudik meanings, we will only concentrate that. The Adhyatmic meanings, even though that is in the Vedas, if somebody wants to separate it and it is Vedanta, then somebody is teaching, you do that. If everybody teaches only the Adhyatmic, who will teach the Adi Devik and Adi Baudik? So our role is, we don't want to change. This is the only way to at least make some relevance. Maybe it may not win the support of the intelligentsia. That is fine with us. Where are the intelligentsia? At the top of the pyramid? Top 1% or top 5%? I don't know. We are trying to include them also by Madhadhipatis. We will make a case, continuously make a case to them. But anyway, this whole knowledge is only very recent. Aurobindo died in 1950. Kabali Shastri died in 1953. Professor Kashyap died in 2022, but he translated them, all the 27,000 mantras, during a 13-year period from 1999, after he retired from Purdue as a professor, 1999 to 2012. So all 27 mantras in Adhyatmic meaning is available only in 2012. So it's only 10 years. And we have made some progress. And maybe give it another 10, 20 more years, if more and more people study by universities at HUA and other places, many private efforts are being done, and they were Professor Kashyap, there is Sakshi, an organization in Bangalore. Dr. Jagirdar is the trustee now of Sakshi Trust. So they're all trying to do that. And if more and more people continue this, we have to get a minimum mass before we can take it to go there. And in fact, he is teaching to, in Karnataka, 5 years he is teaching, and there are many students belonging to all castes, boys and girls, in some poor areas and all that. They are teaching free this Sakshi for the past 5 years, and 110 school students are chanting this, and they are all liking it, and they are all chanting it at home. Now he is expanding to make a small village, Veda village, where he is going to every house and teach them. So many efforts are being done to teach Veda mantras, because by chanting the Veda mantras, this you can invite the people, whether you understand the spiritual meaning or not. You may or may not get the full power, but you will see changes in you.
Great. And we'll send, Rajaji is asking some details about Professor Kashyap. We'll include it in the follow-up email that goes out, and other links and readings that Dr. Narayana Swami wants to suggest. We'll include that in the follow-up email. All right, we're at our last question from Maheshji. He's asking, do the Vedas talk about the aspect of feeling versus analytical thought? From an analytical perspective, the mind seemingly resolves every issue or problem, but the ones who live and breathe it without thinking seem to be wiser. So feeling versus analytical thought. Emotion, logic.
Vedas only talk about the leading a Satyam Tapas Shraddhayam, Jihomi. All the time you have to base everything in truth, because what it says is rising in consciousness levels or chanting the Vedas, Devas to remove the dasyus, all happens by the chant of the mantra. They do not distinguish between analytical and practical. Whatever task, if it is analytical or practical, that all will get into more and more higher levels of perfection as your consciousness levels increase. Your consciousness levels increase when the dasyus are removed and you are into the truth. So that is the best way I will be able to answer this. It is may not be satisfactory to you are going so by that detail. I have not studied all the 27,000 mantras, whether in one mantra analyzed and all that. I do not know the broad meanings that have come through and all that. Put it in these terms: the Satyam Tapas Shraddhayam, doing all the tasks. The Satya, and that I also in one of the essays says, the way of immortality is the upward path of the truth, and all these levels are truth, and that is exactly what the self-realization also says. This, because not by Bahuna Srutena, Katha Upanishad says, all Upanishad says, Bahuna Srutena, not by intellect, you will not be able to understand the self. When the impurities that cover the self are removed, the self reveals itself. And if you have any method to improve the impurities, you try that. But Vedas say that you alone need not try to do that. The Devas are ready to help you to succeed. And that success happens when you the dasyus are removed. And when where Devas are there, if dasyus are there, dasyus will hide, but Devas will go find out where they hide and they remove the dasyu from your. Those are the ways Aurobindo and the Kashyapas explained all this.
Wonderful. So if you haven't filled out the poll yet, let us know if you're interested in enrolling in this course, Understanding the Vedas. We are near the end of our webinar. Thank you everyone for joining and participating, asking those questions. And Dr. Swamiji, thank you so much for answering the questions and sharing and helping us invite the the Devas into our homes, and hopefully more people will take the course and continue on this journey. As you talked about, this is part of the mission and how we're going to get out there. So some closing thoughts from you as we end our webinar.
Well, I think, Ankurji, you have done a very excellent way of moderating and bringing all these things and bringing all the Hindu University of America is on a mission, and this course will add to various things that are doing, and this will their mission and all that. This is in line. All of us can chant. There are so many misconceptions about Veda. I don't know whether I am qualified or capable. I have been a Veda practitioner, and I have personally felt the benefits. So many things. One of the simple examples that Kashyap says is that you are searching for a book and all that, you go there, someone has taken that book and left it on the top of the table. He forgot to put it back in the shelf. So you don't have to search that book. That book is ready for you. That is the level of easiness. If you say that to an intellectual, he will say, that's an accidental or by chance thing. And you are making a big deal about that your Deva helped you find that book. But it all, the glass is half full or half empty. But when you see repeatedly such incidents happening in your life, you think of wanting to communicate with a person, that comes to you, or you schedule a meeting for a particular time and you are unable to go, then he calls and says, can we change the time of the meeting? So either so many coincidences come, and then you can say that these are all coincidences happen to you. Whether such coincidences happen to others, I do not know. But I can say, well, there may be something that this is happening. And I'm not saying I have a direct line. I am a very, very small person. There are so many much more qualified people who know Veda chanting and all. But I was fortunate to know both on an intellectual sense, and I had the guidance from Kashyap, where I learned everything. Otherwise, learning from Aurobindo's articles is not easy. So I want to share that, and this course is a right path. I have done it on my own, but Hindu University, it must be in an academic setting with a term paper and all that. Then they will get a lot more understanding, and gradually we can all spiritualize our lives, which is the goal of self-realization. But they say that has nothing to do with Veda. It has nothing to do with Veda and Vedanta. We need to lead a Satyandava Shraddhayam and removing the dasyus, then we all can rise in consciousness and do our task well. And Angurji, thank you very, very much, because you did an outstanding job of moderating and bringing all the viewpoints together.
To everyone, hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday, or if you're in India, your Sunday. Namaste.
Namaste.